Dr. Ngozi Nwosu walks briskly through the busy corridors of Lagos University Teaching Hospital. A well-respected cardiothoracic surgeon, she's known for her sharp mind, fierce independence, and unwavering commitment to her patients. This morning, however, she's late for a surgery, thanks to the chaotic Lagos traffic. As she pushes through the doors of the operating room, her colleagues raise their brows but say nothing. Dr. Ngozi, unbothered by their reactions, quickly scrubs in and begins the operation. Every movement is precise and confident. She's at the top of her game. However, despite her skills, Dr. Ngozi is becoming more and more aware that no matter how good she is, her career is stuck. Hospital politics and nepotism are rampant, and she knows that her talent alone won't get her the promotion she deserves. Meanwhile, Captain Dapo Adebanjo, the team leader of Nigeria's elite Special Forces unit, is just returning from a dangerous mission in the northern part of the country. His job involves high-risk operations to protect the nation from insurgents and threats, but despite the danger, Dapo is calm, collected, and always prepared. His commanding officer informs him that a high-level government official's life was saved today thanks to a surgeon at Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Unbeknownst to Dapo, it was Dr. Ngozi who performed the life-saving surgery. Dapo visits the hospital later in the day to meet with the official. As he walks through the hospital, he passes by Dr. Ngozi, who's about to leave after a long day. He catches her eye, and for a split second, they exchange a brief but intense look. Neither of them speaks. Ngozi quickly brushes off the moment, assuming he's just another visitor. Dapo, on the other hand, is curious. There's something about her that lingers in his mind as he continues walking toward his meeting. In the meeting room, Dapo is greeted warmly by the government official, who thanks him and his team for their role in protecting the nation. As the conversation progresses, the official makes a comment about the excellent work done by Dr. Ngozi Nwosu, the cardiothoracic surgeon who saved his life. Dapo's curiosity grows. He makes a mental note to learn more about this woman. Later that evening, Dr. Ngozi is preparing to leave the hospital when she is called into the director's office. She is surprised to find Captain Dapo Adebanjo waiting for her along with the hospital director. Dapo, now fully aware of who she is, thanks her personally for saving the government official's life. Ngozi, always professional, downplays the praise, stating that it was simply her job. However, she can't ignore the spark of interest she feels toward the confident and composed captain. Before leaving, Dapo invites her to a special government dinner as a guest of honor for her outstanding work. Caught off guard, Ngozi hesitates but eventually agrees, knowing that this could be a good opportunity to make new connections in the government. At the dinner, Ngozi feels slightly out of place among the military personnel and government officials. She spots Dapo from across the room, engaged in conversation but aware of her presence. Eventually, Dapo approaches her, and they share a light conversation. Their discussion begins formally, with talk of their respective jobs. But as the night progresses, the tension between them grows, and they find themselves talking about deeper matters: life, the risks of their professions, and the sacrifices they've made. The evening ends on a note of mutual respect and an undeniable chemistry. As they part ways, both of them realize that this is only the beginning. Dr. Ngozi Nwosu is deep in thought as she arrives at the hospital. The dinner from the previous night lingers in her mind, particularly her conversation with Captain Dapo Adebanjo. While she's used to dealing with high-pressure situations, the pull she feels toward the stoic military man is new territory for her. Shaking off her thoughts, she prepares for another day of surgeries. Midway through her first operation, she receives a message from the hospital director. A military official is being airlifted in after a serious incident. She is requested to assist with the emergency surgery. Without hesitation, Ngozi scrubs out and rushes to the trauma unit. At the military base, Captain Dapo is preparing his team for their next mission. His focus is unwavering, but he can't seem to shake the thought of Dr. Ngozi. He finds himself wondering what kind of person she is outside the hospital. He quickly brushes off the distraction, reminding himself of the gravity of his job. However, just as he's about to address his team, he gets a call. A high-ranking officer was critically injured, and his team must escort him to Lagos University Teaching Hospital. Without realizing it, fate is drawing Dapo and Ngozi together again. Ngozi works swiftly alongside her team as they prepare for the incoming military patient. She's in her element, calm, confident, and precise. When the military convoy arrives with the officer, the trauma unit is immediately flooded with personnel. As the patient is rushed in, Ngozi locks eyes with Dapo again. He's here, his uniform crisp, his expression serious. Their last meeting was at a fancy dinner, but now they are back in their respective worlds, hers filled with life-saving procedures, his with danger and protection. Without speaking, they exchange a nod of acknowledgement. Dapo's respect for Ngozi deepens as he watches her spring into action, completely focused on the task at hand. The surgery is tense and complicated. The officer sustained multiple injuries, including severe internal bleeding, which puts his life in danger. Ngozi's expertise is on full display as she commands the operating room with precision. Hours pass, and as the team works, Dapo waits anxiously outside. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, the surgery is over. Ngozi emerges from the operating room, her face weary but satisfied. The officer is stable, though the road to recovery will be long. She shares the news with Dapo, who offers a brief but sincere smile of gratitude. "I owe you again," he says, a mix of relief and admiration in his voice. Ngozi chuckles softly. "You don't owe me anything. I'm just doing my job." Later that evening, after the initial crisis subsides, Dapo finds himself waiting for Ngozi outside the hospital. He wasn't planning to see her again so soon, but after watching her work today, he feels compelled to thank her properly. When Ngozi exits the hospital, she's surprised to see him leaning against his car, a rare moment of relaxation on his usually composed face. "Captain Adebanjo," she greets him with a smile, her exhaustion showing. "Call me Dapo," he says, stepping forward. "Can I take you to dinner, as a proper thank you?" Ngozi hesitates. There's an undeniable attraction between them, but she's wary of mixing her professional life with personal affairs. But something about Dapo, his calm confidence, the way he looks at her as though he truly sees her, makes it hard to say no. "All right," she agrees, her voice softer than usual. "But somewhere casual. I'm too tired for anything fancy." Dapo nods, and they drive off to a quiet local restaurant, far from the formal dinners and busy hospitals. At a small, unpretentious restaurant by the lagoon, they share a quiet meal. The conversation flows easily, surprisingly so, as they talk about everything from their careers to their families. Dapo shares stories of his dangerous missions, while Ngozi talks about the pressure of life in the operating room. Both of them realize how much they've sacrificed for their jobs. Dapo, the constant risk of losing his life, and Ngozi, the countless hours spent in the hospital, leaving little time for relationships. Despite their different worlds, they find a connection in the shared burden of responsibility. They're both people who save lives in different ways, and that common ground draws them closer. As the night wears on, the mood shifts. The conversation becomes more personal, more intimate. They talk about their fears, their dreams, and the loneliness that comes with their demanding professions. There's a moment of silence, the kind that feels comfortable rather than awkward. They both know something is changing between them, but neither of them is ready to fully acknowledge it yet. After dinner, Dapo drives Ngozi back to her apartment. As they sit in the car, the tension between them builds. It's not the kind of tension that demands an immediate resolution, but the kind that promises something more in the future. "Thank you for tonight," Ngozi says quietly. "It was nice." Dapo looks at her, his dark eyes reflecting the streetlights. "It was," he agrees, his voice deep and calm. There's a brief pause before she opens the car door. "Good night, Dapo." "Good night, Ngozi," he replies, watching as she walks into her building. As Dapo drives off into the night, he knows this won't be the last time they see each other. Dr. Ngozi Nwosu starts her day earlier than usual, going over patient reports in her office. Though her mind is focused on her work, she can't shake thoughts of Captain Dapo Adebanjo. Their quiet dinner from the previous night replays in her mind, his calm demeanor, their deep conversation, the unspoken connection. It's been a long time since someone made her feel this way. But she shakes her head, reminding herself that her career comes first. Her focus is interrupted when she's called for an emergency surgery. Another life to save, another day of intense work. As she rushes to the operating room, she tells herself that Dapo is just a passing thought, nothing more. Meanwhile, Dapo is back at the base, preparing for a classified mission. His team senses something different about him. He's quieter, more introspective. His lieutenant, Kunle, notices and asks, "Captain, something on your mind?" Dapo brushes off the comment, but the truth is, he hasn't stopped thinking about Ngozi. He admires her strength, her independence, and the way she handles the pressures of her job. But he knows that his world is unpredictable, full of risks and dangers that could complicate things. Despite the feelings growing inside him, he's hesitant to pursue something deeper. Still, as he gears up for the mission, Dapo makes a mental note to see her again once he's back. After the surgery, Ngozi takes a rare moment to grab lunch in the hospital cafeteria. As she sits down with her meal, her colleague, Dr. Ifeoma, joins her. Ifeoma has been her friend for years, always offering a listening ear. "You've been distracted lately," Ifeoma says with a teasing smile. "What's going on?" Ngozi hesitates before admitting, "I met someone." Ifeoma's eyes widen in excitement. "Oh? Spill." "It's not like that," Ngozi says quickly, but Ifeoma's knowing look encourages her to continue. "His name is Dapo. He's in the military, special forces actually." "Special forces, wow, that's intense," Ifeoma says. "And?" Ngozi shrugs, trying to downplay the situation. "We've only met a couple of times, but there's something about him, it's strange. I've never felt this way about anyone before." Ifeoma leans in, her smile widening. "So, when's the next date?" Ngozi laughs, but inside she knows that Ifeoma's question is more complicated than it sounds. Between her demanding job and Dapo's dangerous profession, it feels like they live in two different worlds. Back at the military base, Dapo and his team are dropped off in a remote area of northern Nigeria. The mission is high risk, rescuing hostages from a terrorist group. As they move through the dense forest, Dapo remains calm and focused, but his mind occasionally drifts back to Ngozi. The operation goes smoothly at first, but as they near the enemy compound, they encounter heavy resistance. Gunfire erupts, and Dapo's heart pounds as he orders his team to take cover. In the chaos, Dapo risks his life to protect one of his men, narrowly avoiding a bullet himself. The mission is ultimately successful, and the hostages are rescued. But as Dapo watches the sunrise over the horizon, the close call makes him think even more about the future. Life is fragile, and he wonders if he's willing to risk missing out on something with Ngozi because of the danger in his life. Several days pass, and Ngozi is finishing up her shift at the hospital when she receives a call. It's Dapo. He's back from his mission and wants to meet. She agrees, her heart racing with a mixture of anticipation and nerves. Dr. Ngozi Nwosu wakes up to the soft hum of Lagos coming to life outside her window. For the first time in a long time, she feels something stir inside her, excitement, anticipation. Her thoughts immediately drift to Captain Dapo Adebanjo. Their last meeting had left her feeling vulnerable yet hopeful. As she prepares for another day at the hospital, her phone buzzes. It's a message from Dapo. Good morning, Ngozi. I hope you have a great day. I'll be thinking of you. She smiles to herself, feeling warmth spread through her chest. But as quickly as the joy arrives, reality sets in. Between their high-stakes jobs, how would they make this work? At the military base, Dapo gathers his team for another mission briefing. As always, his focus is sharp, his leadership unwavering. But beneath the surface, his mind keeps returning to Ngozi. He knows that their relationship, if it could even be called that, is growing, but he's not sure where it will lead. During the briefing, Lieutenant Kunle, Dapo's trusted second-in-command, notices his captain's unusual quietness. Everything all right, sir? Kunle asks as the team files out. Dapo hesitates, then nods. Yeah, just a lot on my mind. Kunle grins knowingly. You've been different lately. Let me guess, Dr. Lady? Dapo gives a small smile, knowing he can't hide anything from Kunle. It's more complicated than that. Kunle claps him on the shoulder. It always is. But if she's worth it, you'll find a way. Dapo says nothing, but Kunle's words stay with him. He knows he needs to talk to Ngozi, to figure out what they're both willing to risk. Ngozi is in the middle of her rounds when she gets a call, another emergency surgery. This time, it's a critical case involving a prominent politician, and the pressure is on. As she scrubs in, her mind is laser-focused on the task ahead. The operating room is her battlefield, and she is the commander. The surgery is long and intense, but after hours of work, Ngozi stabilizes the patient. Her colleagues praise her for her expertise, but all she feels is exhaustion. As she steps out of the operating room, she checks her phone and sees another message from Dapo. Let me take you out tonight. We need to talk. Ngozi's heart races, knowing this isn't just about dinner. There's something deeper at stake. That evening, they meet at a quiet lounge near Victoria Island, far from the noise and chaos of the city. As they sit down, the tension between them is palpable, not the romantic kind from before, but a tension built on uncertainty. I've been thinking a lot, Dapo starts, his tone serious. About us. Ngozi nods, bracing herself. So have I. Dapo looks at her, his face unreadable. My job isn't easy, Ngozi. I'm constantly in danger, and there's no telling what could happen tomorrow. I don't want to pull you into that. Ngozi meets his gaze, her voice steady but soft. I'm a surgeon, Dapo. Every day I see people on the brink of life and death. I know what it's like to live with uncertainty. But that doesn't mean I want to push people away. Dapo lets out a slow breath. I've never allowed myself to get close to anyone because of the risks. But with you it's different. I don't know if we can make this work, but I want to try. Ngozi feels her heart flutter, but she knows this isn't just about their feelings. We both have demanding lives, Dapo. It won't be easy. But I don't want to walk away either. She shares the news with Dapo, who offers a brief but sincere smile of gratitude. I owe you again, he says, a mix of relief and admiration in his voice. Ngozi chuckles softly. You don't owe me anything. I'm just doing my job. Later that night, as Dapo drives Ngozi home, the atmosphere between them feels lighter. There's still a long road ahead, but the fact that they've decided to face it together brings a sense of calm. As they pull up in front of her apartment, Dapo turns to her. "Thank you for being patient with me, Ngozi." Ngozi smiles softly. "I don't think I've been the patient one. But I'm glad we talked." For a moment, neither of them moves. Then, in an impulsive but tender gesture, Dapo leans forward and kisses her. It's soft, brief, but filled with promise. "I'll call you tomorrow," Dapo says as she steps out of the car. Ngozi watches him drive off, her heart still racing from the kiss. As she heads into her apartment, she can't help but feel like things are finally moving in the right direction. But as Ngozi gets ready for bed, Dapo receives an urgent call from his commanding officer. There's a new threat, an unexpected insurgent attack in the north. His team is being deployed immediately. The tension in his voice is evident as he listens to his orders. He knows this mission is riskier than usual, and the timing couldn't be worse. Just as he's starting to build something with Ngozi, he's pulled back into the chaos of his job. Ngozi meets his gaze, her voice steady but soft. "I'm a surgeon, Dapo. Every day I see people on the brink of life and death. I know what it's like to live with uncertainty. But that doesn't mean I want to push people away." Before he leaves for the mission, Dapo sends Ngozi a short message. "Something came up. I'll be out of reach for a few days. Take care." Ngozi reads the message, her heart sinking. She knows that Dapo's job could take him away at any moment, but it still stings to be reminded so soon. As she turns off her phone and lies in bed, she wonders if their budding relationship will survive the obstacles ahead. She shares the news with Dapo, who offers a brief but sincere smile of gratitude. "I owe you again," he says, a mix of relief and admiration in his voice. Ngozi chuckles softly. "You don't owe me anything. I'm just doing my job." The atmosphere at the military base is tense as Captain Dapo Adebanjo prepares for the upcoming mission. His mind is clouded with thoughts of Dr. Ngozi Nwosu, but there's no time for distractions. The team has been briefed on the insurgent threat, and it's clear that this mission is going to be critical. As Dapo gathers his gear, Lieutenant Kunle approaches, noticing Dapo's distracted demeanor. "You all right, Captain?" Kunle asks, concern etched on his face. Dapo takes a deep breath, his thoughts a jumble. "I'm just worried about Ngozi. I haven't been able to reach her since I got the call." Kunle nods, understanding. "You know how it is. Once you're in the field, everything else fades away. Just focus on the mission. We need you sharp." Back in Lagos, Ngozi is feeling the weight of uncertainty. The days without communication from Dapo stretch on, and each ring of her phone brings a flutter of hope, only to be dashed when it's not him. She throws herself into work, assisting in surgery and attending to patients. But even the most critical cases can't distract her from worrying about Dapo's safety. During a break, she confides in Ifeoma over coffee. "I haven't heard from him in days, Ifeoma," Ngozi says, frustration creeping into her voice. "What if something happened?" Ifeoma looks concerned. "You know how his job is. They're probably in a high-stress situation. You can't take it personally." "I know, but it's hard. I was just starting to let my guard down," Ngozi admits, her voice trembling. "What if I never see him again?" Meanwhile, at the military base, Dapo and his team prepare for their deployment. They've received intel about a hostile group that has taken several villagers captive. The mission is dangerous, and they need to act fast. As they gather for the briefing, Dapo feels the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This is not just about strategy. Lives are at stake. We go in fast and extract the hostages without drawing attention. Understood. His team nods in unison, but Dapo can't shake the feeling of impending danger. With each passing moment, the nagging thought of Ngozi resurfaces. He resolves to contact her once the mission is over, but deep down, he knows that things could change dramatically. Dapo and his team set out under the cover of darkness, navigating through rough terrain. As they move closer to the enemy stronghold, tension fills the air. Suddenly, gunfire erupts nearby, and Dapo instinctively takes charge. "Take cover, move," he shouts, directing his men with precision. In the chaos, Dapo's thoughts flicker to Ngozi. What would she think if she could see him now? As they advance, Dapo leads his team through obstacles, using every ounce of training he has. But the enemy is prepared, and the situation escalates quickly. Just as they reach the perimeter of the stronghold, an ambush occurs, and chaos ensues. In the thick of battle, Dapo's focus is unwavering. He works alongside his team to neutralize threats and push further into the stronghold. But in the midst of it all, he hears a commotion nearby. Hostages are being moved. "Captain, we have to move now," Kunle urges, but Dapo feels a sudden sense of urgency. "Cover me," Dapo commands, sprinting toward the source of the noise. As he approaches, he sees the hostages tied up and guarded by armed insurgents. The sight makes his heart race. In a moment of desperation, he signals his team. "We go in together. No one gets left behind." But just as they prepare to act, an explosion rocks the compound, sending shockwaves through the air. Dapo is thrown back, landing hard on the ground. Dazed, he tries to regain his bearings, but chaos envelops him. Back in Lagos, Ngozi receives a notification on her phone, a breaking news alert about a military operation in the north. Her heart drops as she reads the headline, "Special Forces Engaged in Intense Battle Against Insurgents." Panic washes over her. "No, no, no," she whispers, fear gripping her heart. She tries calling Dapo, but the call doesn't go through. The uncertainty consumes her as she realizes that she may be losing him. With trembling hands, she sends him a message. "Dapo, I'm worried. Please let me know you're okay." As she waits, her mind races with thoughts of what could be happening. She knows the risks he faces daily, but now that the threat feels real, it hits harder than ever. Dapo slowly regains consciousness, disoriented from the blast. Around him, chaos reigns as his team works to regroup and assess the situation. He can hear distant cries, the sounds of gunfire, and the shouts of his men coordinating efforts to extract the hostages. "Captain," Kunle shouts, rushing over. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine," Dapo replies, shaking off the daze. "We need to get those hostages, now." Together, they make their way toward the building where the hostages are held. Dapo's heart races, thoughts of Ngozi flashing through his mind. As they breach the building, Dapo leads the charge, adrenaline surging through him. The room is dimly lit, and he can see the terrified faces of the hostages, tied and frightened. "Stay down," Dapo orders as his team moves in, engaging with the guards. The air thickens with tension and a firefight erupts. Finally, after what feels like an eternity, they neutralize the last of the guards. Dapo rushes to the hostages, quickly cutting their bonds. "We're here to get you out, stay close and follow us," he instructs, his voice firm but reassuring. As Dapo leads the hostages through the stronghold, gunfire erupts again from the perimeter. They're not safe yet. Dapo's heart pounds as he shields the hostages with his body, directing them toward the exit. Keep moving, we're almost there, Kunli shouts, firing back at the insurgents. Just as they reach the outer wall, Dapo feels a sharp pain in his shoulder. He stumbles but doesn't fall, pushing through the pain. I'm okay, just keep going, he urges, knowing that every second counts. Back in Lagos, Ngozi sits in her apartment, her heart heavy with worry. She can't shake the feeling of dread as the news updates flow in. Just then, her phone buzzes. It's a message from Dapo. I'm safe, just got the hostages out. I'll explain everything later. Tears of relief spill down her cheeks as she reads the message. The weight of her fear begins to lift, but she knows that Dapo's battles don't end here. Dapo returns to the base, his body battered but his spirit unyielded. As he walks through the door, he's greeted by cheers from his fellow soldiers and the grateful families of the rescued hostages. But all he can think about is Ngozi. I need to call her, he mutters, eager to reassure her. When he finally gets through, he hears her voice, shaky but strong. Dapo, you're okay? I was so worried. I'm fine, Ngozi, just a bit banged up, but I need to see you, he replies, his heart aching to be close to her again. Later that night, Dapo arrives at Ngozi's apartment, the door barely closing before she rushes into his arms. You're safe. I was so scared, she whispers, tears streaming down her face. I'm here now, I'm sorry for making you worry, Dapo says, holding her tightly. In that moment, surrounded by the warmth of each other's presence, all the chaos of the past few days fades away. But as they pull back, Dapo's expression turns serious. I need you to know that what I do isn't easy. I want you in my life, but I can't promise it will always be safe. Ngozi meets his gaze, determination shining in her eyes. I understand the risks, Dapo. But love is worth it. Even in the chaos. As the days pass, Dapo and Ngozi navigate the complexities of their relationship, learning to balance their demanding careers with their love for one another. They discover that love can thrive even in the most challenging circumstances, reminding each other of the strength they find in unity. Through their journey, they learn that every relationship requires patience, understanding, and a willingness to face challenges together. Love is not just about the easy moments, but also about supporting each other through adversity. Thank you for joining us on this journey of love and resilience between Dapo and Ngozi. Their story teaches us that even in the face of chaos, love can endure. If you enjoyed this series and want to see more stories of love overcoming obstacles, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts on what love means to you in the comments below. Until next time, remember to cherish your loved ones, no matter the challenges you face.